Welcome back. This is Business Center right here on Metropol TV, and our question of the day today is what name? What is the English name for managu? We are speaking about agribusiness, and today we are going to talk about these vegetables, indigenous vegetables in the country, and commonly known as kienyeji vegetables. And we are joined by Karuga. He's just going to delve into this topic today and tell us more about planting and how do we take care of these indigenous vegetables. Mr. Caleb, can you hear me? How are you?
Good afternoon. I can hear you, Kelvin.
Thank you so much for coming to the show. We are happy to have you. Now, let's start from the basics. How popular are these kienyeji vegetables in the country, and what is their intake in a normal family setup?
Kevin, a couple of years ago, they weren't that popular, especially around Mount Kenya region. And allow me to say that because I'm from that region. We grew up knowing that these are crops for the poor, especially the managu, the tereres. We were not consumers of traditional vegetables. But over the years, we realized that they actually have more iron, they have more proteins, they have more vitamins than the conventional or the exotic vegetables. So yeah, I would say that over the years, people have now gone back to their roots, pun intended, and people are consuming more of these traditional vegetables, albeit still in cosmopolitan towns like Nairobi, like Kisumu, like Mombasa, compared to say Nyeri County or Embu County, where people are still, it's growing. The culture of consuming the traditional vegetables is growing, but not as much as it's growing here in Nairobi County.
Okay, that's good to know, because you know someone would expect people from the metropolitan area not to be growing this. And now we can delve a little bit more into the farming of this kienyeji mboga. What are their requirements, and should we look at the soil pH, water intake, and what is the duration of farming before harvesting?
I will tell you the easiest crops to grow are the TAVs, the traditional African vegetables, because as long as you've got good fertile soil, then these crops thrive very well. Look at every time the rains, we have had rains, near your cattle shed, there is that heap of manure that you normally, just heap manure over the years. A lot of managu grows very well. A lot of terere, the mchicha we have. So they are easy to grow, but at the same time, people are afraid of the market, especially during the rainy season, because the seed dispersal is very easy. Let's say you give your cows or your chicken a bit of the amaranth, the terere leaves, and it has some seeds. The chicken manure will also contain the seeds. So you'll find this terere is growing all over. So when it rains, you find that there's a glut of these particular traditional African vegetables. So taking to market becomes a little bit tricky. But overall, they do very well in largely fertile soils. And especially when you're doing your organic manure, they do very, very, very well. You find the leaves are very big because of the organic manure. They are heavy consumers of manure, so you need to keep manuring your farm as often as possible. Talking about the pH, the ideal pH for these vegetables is about 6.5, but anywhere from 5.5 to max 7.5 pH levels, they'll do very well. So you want to work with some ideal soil, like about say 6.5. That would be ideal for growing these traditional African vegetables.
All right, and on that, we're sticking still with that. Now, with people who live in apartments and they want to plant these kienyeji vegetables, how do they improve the soil pH for their vegetables? Maybe they've decided to grow on the balcony. How can they improve the soil pH there?
Actually, Calvin, after COVID disrupted our way of lives, we realized that most people were now turning to eating healthy. And we've seen, I'm calling them the new COVID farmers or COVID farmers. And these small cove farms, you find them either in someone's balcony or someone's veranda. And they will probably get a bucket, an old bucket, or some wooden sleeping, and they're planting their vegetables there. Now, these are the people who are coming to some of us who are in the peri-urban area of Nairobi, and they'll say, I want a bucket of manure. Or the innovative ones will say, I will go to the market, or from my kitchen refuse, I'll use banana peelings, I'll use whatever vegetable peelings that they have, and they're mixing it in their vegetable gardens in their veranda. And that's awesome because that balances your pH. Look, the more you're using these inorganic fertilizers over time, especially DAP, diammonium phosphate, using urea, you're using calcium, ammonia, nitrate, that's CN, the more acidic your soils are going to be. Now, a very interesting way of checking your soil pH is if you ever find a toad or a frog, mostly toads, in your soil, it means your soil pH is almost balanced because the skin of the toad is very, very sensitive. So some toads or some even earthworms, the more you're finding more organic living organisms in your farm, the more balanced your pH is going to be. So I encourage all these balcony farmers, veranda farmers, to please try as much as possible to use organic manure for your African vegetables.
All right. That's really informative because I believe many people have never known that you need to, like when your soil is really rich is when maybe you find a little toad or an earthworm there. Now, how do you ensure disease and pest control is adhered to the farming of kienyeji mbogas, and what disease should a person be on the lookout for mostly?
Good question. I shared this on my YouTube channel, how you can have what we call a biofence, biological fence. So let's say you have your block of, say, sukuma wiki or, managu, talking about managu, or terere. What you do is you plant a few coriander seedlings around your plot of managu and another line of onions, especially the spring onion. Reason being, aphids, we normally have a lot of aphids, especially when you're doing these traditional vegetables. So the ladybird will come and eat the aphids, but first to be attracted by the smell of the coriander, the dania. So it will go to eat the dania, but it realizes that, whoa, wait a minute, there's actually some aphids I can be feeding on. So you attract the ladybirds through using the dania or the coriander, then they'll go and eat the aphids. We're having people complaining that snails or slugs, I don't know what to call them, they are eating their crops. There's no snail that will pass through a line of onions, especially the spring onion, because of the smell, and it also irritates the skin of the snails. So I would do a biofence, do onions around your block of traditional vegetables and coriander. That's one of the biological ways of preventing creepy crawlies. Another thing is people are using a biofertilizer like rabbit urine. If you have access to that, go for it. Also ash, it's a base, so it kind of balances the pH of your soil, and that's something brilliant that I'm seeing farmers are utilizing. There's neem plants, there is Mexican marigold, you mix all of it. There's a lot of content online that people can check on how to make their own organic biofertilizer. So you're also going to look out for birds. Birds love, especially when your managu is developing seeds. You find people complaining that birds have made their little farms, their Villarosa Kempinski. So please avoid birds. I don't know that you can use a shed net or what you can use just to avoid birds from eating your vegetables. Look out for the rainy season. Now, we have a lot of blight, especially if you're farming around Limuru or these extreme cold places. So look out for that. There are many organic pesticides that you can use that are safe. And thirdly, follow the PHI, the post-harvest interval. If you're going to spray your vegetables against, say, some thrips or some, aphids, do not harvest your crops until the end of that PHI that is recommended. I see people spraying on a Monday and Friday, they are taking their vegetables to market or they are consuming them. You're going to have a lot of chemical residue that is going to get into your bodies, and that's why we're having rising cases of cancer. So I would encourage everybody, be on the lookout, and as much as you can, farm organically.
All right, and with what you've spoken about the weather and the, because right now we have a season of you find it's cold and then it's hot. You don't really know when it's going to be cold or maybe when it's going to be sunny. So what would you advise a farmer who is growing in the urban area on how to take care of their kienyeji mboga in this weather that is sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot?
Now, the trick is to be in production all year round. You actually make more money when it's sunny than when it's rainy, because everybody has vegetables because it rained and the seeds that were there the previous year sprouted everywhere. But one of the things that you can do is either you have a small mini greenhouse if it's extreme weather, and I would only advise a greenhouse if you're going for commercial purposes. Otherwise, if you're just growing them for your own home consumption, a greenhouse may be a bit expensive for especially the average Kenyan farmer, and looking at where we are because of COVID, people have lost income. So just be on the lookout for that, but also do time your vegetables. I don't plant managu and terere on the onset of the rains. Reason being, I'm going to struggle selling them because everybody has them growing in their backyard, so they're just uprooting them as weeds and consuming them. So I would encourage you to have market intelligence, understand when there will be a glut of what particular vegetable and when to avoid planting it in large scale.
All right. And then now, would you advise for crop rotation and farming for kienyeji mbogas?
Most definitely. I mean, most of the harmful organisms that probably are in the soil, like the root nematodes, you'll find them still stuck in the soil. So crops that are in the same family, the Brassica family, you want to avoid planting the same crop over and over again. So one of the best ways you can do crop rotation is probably if you planted managu, another season you can do onions, another season you can do, I don't know, maize, just to avoid planting crops that are in the same family. Though I find terere to be a bit hardy, I've grown it in Mombasa, rather in Kilifi. Okay, Kilifi and Mombasa, we call it the same. But I've grown a lot of mchicha in Kilifi, and it does very, very, very well in very hot areas like Mombasa and Kilifi and Lamu. So understand also your agroecological zone. There are places where terere will tend to do way better than even managu or mrenda, but most parts of the country, these crops will do very well.
All right, and you as a farmer who's really grown these different types of crops, let us talk markets. With kale being the preferred go-to vegetable in most households, how would the kienyeji mbogas compare?
Well, they are very expensive. Okay, not very, keywordless. They are not that affordable for everybody. And I'll take you back to what I started by saying. When we were growing up, these crops were crops, sorry to say this, but they were considered crops for the poor. Crops that were, so people in urban centers would not be caught dead eating the traditional vegetables. But through access to information, people now know that they are even more valuable in terms of the nutritional value than the exotic vegetables. So we are finding there is growing demand for the consumption of these traditional African vegetables. I would go for, yes, understand your market very well, segment it, understand if, like I live in Kikuyu, that's why I farm, so I'm surrounded by a largely cosmopolitan town or setup called Kawangware. Now, in Kawangware, we have the Luos, the Luyas, the Masais, the Kisis. Almost every community is represented within Kawangware. So I would probably make more money selling my vegetables in Kawangware as opposed to going to Nyeri County, Mukureni, where I come from, and Odaya. My vegetables may not fetch a very good price. So we still have to segment and understand that people in Kibera, again, or in informal settlements, may not quite afford our traditional African vegetables. So we probably do a split and say This market is going for the African vegetables. This is the market for the exotic ones. As we wait for demand in terms of many people to grow them, then probably the prices are going to probably, come to the same level with say sukuma wiki, because a kilo of sukuma wiki retail for between 15 and 20 shillings. I'm imagining managu will go 20, 25, sometimes even 30 shillings depending on the region. So as a farmer, I would advise go for the two of them because of your market. But if you realize your market wants more of the traditional vegetables, 100% go into that.
Now, our last question, because we have to wrap this up. Any advice for a farmer who wants to delve into kienyeji farming?
Okay, I lost you for a second, but if I got your question, you're asking what would be my advice to soon-to-be farmers.
Yes.
I would advise them, number one, understand your market. I always say, anzia sokoni. Enda mle sokoni, understand what do the mama mbogas want. Growing managu, and in your region, people do not want managu, you're going to have it very difficult. So talk to all those mama mbogas, talk to the hotels, the vibandas. Ongea mama kibanda. Let the mama kibanda tell you, we will prefer this than this. Then come back to your soil now and do a soil test. Is your soil too acidic for the particular crop that you're planting? Number three, your water, quality of your water. I'm finding people growing vegetables on sewer lines. That's very, very, very bad. When you do a soil test and a water test, then when you plant, space your crop. I'm not an advocate for you have a whole acre, all of it, ujaza managu and your terere and you're going to smell all the way to the bank. I would go for, have a production cycle. Do an eighth this month. After another month, do another eighth. So that you have a crop that today you are transplanting, tomorrow you are harvesting, another one you are uprooting, you are replacing it. So that you are in market day in, day out. It's all about cash flow. Number five, farm organically, people, farm organically. We are going back to the traditional vegetables because we believe they are healthy, they have the nutritional value. But the minute now everybody goes commercial planting of vegetables, they are going to use inorganic fertilizers and commercial pesticides that end up being harmful. So it defeats the purpose of actually eating the managu, which we thought were more healthier than the sukuma wiki and the spinach.
All right, Mr. Caleb, thank you so much for coming to the show. We have really learned a lot about kienyeji farming and how you need to take care of your soil and how you can take care of your vegetable as a farmer. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much. Now we are going to look at the question of the day today, where we had asked you, what is the English name of managu? What is the English name of managu? And we have some people who've responded here. Today there's quite many people who want to delve into this. And then we have Kelvin, Shoni Kali Sana Leo, ni Waidera from Kikuyu, managu tu ni managu aki. Oh, Adhered from Kikuyu. You have said managu ni managu even in English. All right, there's no problem with that. We are going to go for a short break, but when we come back, I know you want to hear what other people have to say about this. And remember, we are live on Facebook at Metropol TV KE and all other social media platforms. We are going to go for a short break, but when we come back, we're going to come back with innovations and agri-facts.